Jiam, noticing Jin's concern, expressed his opinion that staying put should be sufficient. He believed that those who wished to survive would have no choice but to bring their own tokens. However, Jiam offered the option of dispatching a pursuit team if Jin remained worried. As Jin's attention shifted, he noticed a part of the forest engulfed in flames. Determined to investigate, he voiced his decision to explore the fiery scene. To his surprise, upon arrival, he discovered that the tents had been set ablaze. Confused by the strange occurrence, he grew increasingly frustrated, questioning why the assailants had taken the time to remove the bodies and ignite the fires. Anger welled within him as he suspected that this act was an attempt to lure him away from the safety of the camp. As an arrow pierced through the air and struck him, he swiftly caught it with his bare hand. His gaze shifted towards the direction it came from, and he swiftly drew his bracelet sword, ready to confront the attacker. Determined not to be deterred, he chased after the assailant, who had shot the arrow. However, before he could reach them, another arrow was aimed at him. Using his sword as a defensive measure, he deflected the incoming attack. Frustration welled within him as he declared, "I am starting to get annoyed here." As Jin returned to their campsite, he sought answers from Jiam, asking if anything had occurred during his absence. Jiam responded, saying that nothing noteworthy had happened. Curious about the situation he had investigated, he relayed his findings, explaining that he had suspected an attack on the campsite and had gone to investigate. To his surprise, 2 archers had ambushed him. Jiam expressed disbelief, wondering who would bring archers as allies to a place like this. He deemed their actions nonsensical and perplexing. Jin agreed, finding it bothersome to deal with archers in a realistic field situation. However, he quickly dismissed their significance, stating that the true outcome of battle depended on the warriors engaging in direct combat. In a moment of contemplation, Jin examined the black arrow he carried with him. It was a specialized arrow intended for field attacks, indicating that someone had prepared for such a situation. He couldn't help but suspect that Woon might be involved. Doubt and suspicion clouded his thoughts as he questioned Woon's actions and intentions. The man urged Jin to come and witness something concerning. He turned around, his attention piqued. A man approached Jin, holding a weak woman in his arms. And in that moment, he realized that the woman in the man's arms was none other than his sister, Wool. She appeared to be gravely ill, causing great concern for Jin. Filled with worry and confusion, he anxiously asked what had happened, desperate to understand how Wool had ended up in such a condition. With a weak voice, Wool managed to utter Woon's name, accusing him of betrayal, before losing consciousness and falling onto her brother's body. A few moments later, Jin sought an update on Wool's condition. The unit leader informed him that her fever had not subsided, and she continuously claimed to have been poisoned. Recognizing the severity of the situation, he realized that they needed to consult a physician to determine the cause and find a solution for Wool's ailment. Amidst the uncertainty and concern, he questioned himself, grappling with the possibility that Woon, someone he had trusted, could have truly betrayed Wool. Amidst the chaos, a new disturbance erupted as men shouted and hallucinated, their faces swollen and distorted. They swung their swords in a frenzy, screaming at imaginary monsters to go away. Jin, taken aback by the scene before him, was shocked by the sudden madness that had overtaken his comrades. The unit leader reacted swiftly, delivering a punch to one of the affected men in an attempt to bring him back to his senses. The man fell to the ground, muttering about monsters. Jin's mind raced, drawing a connection to his sister Wool, who had fallen ill and displayed similar symptoms. He wondered how this could have happened. He observed that the hallucinations and nonsensical ramblings resembled symptoms of a fever rather than the effects of poisoning. Suddenly, he noticed peculiar marks on the men's bodies, resembling mosquito bites. Arrows set ablaze rained down upon their camp, setting their tents on fire. He must uncover the cause behind the madness and protect his comrades from further harm. The mysterious marks and the fiery arrows hint at a hidden threat lurking within their midst, driving him to seek answers and take decisive action. Just moments ago, Woon revealed a box to his ally, Xian. With a determined expression, he explained that he had returned to the heavenly demonic cave to collect mosquito larvae, which had grown into mature insects. Xian, disgusted, questioned whether Woon truly intended to use such a repulsive method once again. Undeterred, Woon asserted that he would use any means necessary to secure victory. He prepared himself, placing a cloth on his head, and together, they set off towards the camping ground. Upon reaching their destination, he opened the box, revealing the mosquitoes within. With a calculated plan in mind, he explained that they would now wait for the chaos to ensue. This was the first trial of the heavenly demonic cave, and their strategy relied on the ensuing confusion and disorder. As the flames engulfed their tents, chaos erupted among the men. They writhed in pain, their minds clouded with hallucinations. In the midst of the turmoil, GM shouted in frustration, demanding to know what was happening. Those who still retained their senses rallied together, attempting to extinguish the fires that ravaged the barracks. Jean, filled with a sense of dread, voiced his suspicion that Woon was behind the calamity unfolding before them. GM, appalled by the revelation, expressed his disbelief. He deemed Woon, whom he regarded as a good-for-nothing, responsible for the chaos. Recognizing the gravity of the situation and the difficulty of managing the deranged individuals amidst the chaos, GM suggested abandoning the camp as the burden became too great to handle. A man's frantic screams reached GM's ears. He turned his head, his attention captured by the urgent call. Determined, he made his way towards the central barracks, knowing that all the holy flame tokens were stored there. He rallied his forces, urging them to move swiftly towards their destination. He called out to Jean, urging him to join the group and act swiftly. However, Jean stood still, his mind consumed by thoughts of his sister, Wool. He couldn't ignore her perilous situation. Determined to save her, he made a decision and ran in the opposite direction from GM, heading towards Wool's last known location. GM, filled with anger and frustration, couldn't comprehend Jin's actions. He shouted in frustration, expressing his disbelief that Jean would jeopardize their hard-earned progress for the sake of Wool. Jean arrived at the spot where Wool was supposed to be, but to his dismay, she was nowhere to be found. A mixture of fear and anger washed over him as he realized that the box containing the tokens was also missing. At that moment, his suspicions were confirmed. Wool and Woon were indeed aligned and working together. Gathered around the fire, Woon sat with his allies. In his hands, he held the box containing a total of 46 holy flame tokens. Wool, sitting beside him, expressed her anger towards Woon, warning him that if he ever made her do something like that again, she would truly harm him. She referred to their operation, which involved releasing hallucinogenic mosquitoes to create chaos in Jin's camp. Sincerely, he apologized for the necessity of their actions, explaining that it was the only way to deceive the second young master. Sarah, joining the conversation, emphasized the importance of protecting the box until the trial concluded. However, Woon interjected, stating that it wouldn't end so easily. He believed that the second young master's true, terrifying nature would now come into play. Wool concurred with Woon, asserting that her older brother, Jan, would never allow things to conclude in such a manner. He further added that this was a crucial moment, and Princess Sarah would play a significant role in the events that would unfold. Go, go, go.